Charles, what's happening, sir?
Oh man, happy Friday to you.
Happy Friday to you in the year 2022. This is our first show of 2022, isn't it?
First show of 2022.
First show of 2022. A lot to cover, but we can't start the new year off right unless you do your annual monologue to just bring us into the new year. So, what's on your mind, Sir Charles?
What's on my mind is this. Are we really wanting to stay inside for another whole year? That's the question I have been pondering. That is the question that I'm sure a lot of people have been pondering, considering for Mississippi a 625% increase in COVID cases. The new variant, Omicron, is upon us. And I've been reading up, as you know I always do, on what's over the horizon. And there are two things that I'm watching that are over the horizon related to COVID-19, and that is Flu-Rona. Sounds scary and ominous and just downright wicked. There are confirmed cases of Flu-Rona already. And secondly is IHU. Are you familiar with IHU?
I am not. Educated.
That is a new variant of COVID-19.
Oh, that's the one they found in France, right?
No.
No.
Yes, France. Flu-Rona was in Israel, and IHU is in France, and it seems to be highly transmissible, and maybe much more so than Omicron. So buckle up, get your seatbelt, and get your booster shots. Get vaccinated.
You know, this brings up an interesting thing, and I'm just going to hit it right off the top because, for all the 72 babies, this is a big year for us.
Yeah.
And, I was slated to kick off the year strong, to set the pace, right?
Yep.
And I'm having to recalibrate and reschedule and change things. So Charles, as you get an outlook on 2022, how do we best, what is your advice? How are you going to best live, still accomplish some of the balances of life, and still be safe in terms of COVID?
Well, I think a couple things. One, you have to limit the amount of access. Doesn't mean you have to shut everything down, but you have to limit the amount of access, because with highly transmissible variants, that means they may not be as deadly as the Delta variant, but it has more potential to infect a whole lot of people really fast. So the more people you have in one space, you need to be checking for those who are vaccinated versus unvaccinated, those who are boosted versus unboosted, because all of those things will matter. If they're vaccinated and boosted, then you have a better chance of not having strong symptoms.
Good point.
And then the other thing is, from a business perspective, we have taken steps to limit the number of people in the office. That means we're going to be using a lot of technology, even limiting the number of staff that are in the office at one time. So that we can keep everybody safe. It doesn't mean that we're going to stop operating. It just means we're trying to do our best to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to try and be safe.
Yeah. And for us, I mean, we've kind of got adjusted to it now, but we used to, you alternate every other month. You Dallas, Jackson, and COVID changed that, and it looks like now I said, well, I don't know when I'll see.
Yeah, no, I mean, we have to be, out of an abundance of caution, you have to be safe. I mean, you want to be able to do business as usual, but right now, business as usual means remote is a part of that.
It does. And speaking of technology, I want to welcome our Twitter audience. At first show of 2022, we are now broadcasting live on Twitter as well. So you can catch us on Facebook, on YouTube, or Twitter live every Friday at 4:30. So as always, we continue to find improvements and to reach you where you reside and where you feel most comfortable. So look for some more things coming out. I do have a couple of announcements. And for those of you that are on our mailing list, you will be getting a video of some of these. But I've been getting a lot of questions about our consumer credit program and our business credit program. Our consumer credit program obviously was closed in 2021. We only take so many spots a year. Um, and we will be opening new spots for 2022. I'm going to put out an announcement later this month. And then I'm also going to host a free Credit 101 webinar. You have to register, but it will be free. Just get it everybody's basics to kick off 22 right and to improve your financial picture. I will also be announcing classes are open for enrollment into the credit program. I have a video out that will go over all the fees, the costs, how it works, what we do, everything. We're fully transparent here. There's nothing to hide. There's no hidden fees. I'm gonna tell you everything we do. I'm gonna even tell you the fact that there's nothing we do that you can't do yourself. It's just a matter of you got the time and if you want to study up to get the expertise. That's true. There's no secret sauce or magic. It's just hard work and understanding how the game works. But that is coming, so pay attention on all of our formats, whether it's Twitter, whether it's our website, whether it's Facebook, whether it's YouTube, for those announcements about the credit program. I can tell you we've had some amazing successes in 2021. People buying houses in the midst of the pandemic, people getting rid of a lot of debt in the midst of the pandemic with just simple, good practices around finances. And I like to say common sense approach. I'm not trying to give you a PhD in finance. It's just how do I eat this elephant, right? Of credit and debt. And it's a long game. It's not a short game. We've had amazing successes, and I want to help more of you. And because I take every person that we enroll, I know them personally, and I qualify them personally. Not everybody qualifies, so I can only take a certain amount. But we are going to expand it in 2022 and take more in 2022 than we took in 2021. So get in early when those doors open.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, I'll say this to you. Thank you. I've been one of your credit customers. I mean, there's no shame in it. Life brings all kind of things to you, and when it does, sometimes it can affect your credit. And so, knowing that we had this product available, I got in the program, and I can tell you, I've had amazing results. Um, I went from being a little bit low to now a little bit high.
About to be a lot high. So I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
but
So
but Charles, I think when you speak to that, speak more to like what makes us different than because there's a lot of people that do credit repair, and you will never hear me advertise our program as credit repair because we do so much more than that. We really take an educational approach. So talk to people about the experience of the program as a customer, because I treated you no different. I was just
right.
as hard on you
Yeah.
as anybody else.
No, I think that's a great point. I mean, I would say it was 95% educational. In that you were a hard taskmaster, and hey, you need to do this by this date, and then really being accountable, making me be accountable of getting you certain things and getting them in the system. But then seeing the system being fully transparent, I could see when things were being checked, I could see when things were being done, and ultimately I can see the fruits of that accountability, and have a different mindset about how to add some safeguards, some guardrails, if you will, going forward, so that should life throw a lemon, I won't have to worry about making lemonade. I can just add some juice.
Yeah. Well, definitely. Listen, if you I've heard people say they want to be customers. Look on our website, and I'll pull it up before the end of the show and show you exactly where you can go and you can book a consultation with me. We can go through everything and make sure you qualify. one of the things I do, regardless of whether you're doing the program or not, I do a free. Well, it'll cost you $1. I do and that's just for me to get access to all your credit reports. But I do a full comprehensive audit of all of your three bureaus and explain it to you in layman's terms so you can understand what's going on, why that's affecting you this way, what actions. And I can't own this or take credit for this because this comes from my good friend Emmanuel in Atlanta, his philosophy, which I totally believe. He said most of us don't have a credit problem. We have a behavior problem. And
Yeah.
that's true. And so our approach at Urban Law is if we know that if we fix the behavior, we can change your credit for life. If we don't fix your behavior, we can change your credit for a short amount of time, and you're going to be right back to doing the same thing. So
That's
we
right.
really are all about changing the behavior and what's between your ears and how you think and how you understand and understanding the algorithm. Because after all, guys, the credit system was created by a mathematician and a data scientist. It's
Yeah.
all
So
about
talk about that for a second, because that was one of the big educational pieces that has helped me tremendously, and I know you can see that reflected in my score. Was understanding the difference between the dates and how they calculate, because it's more than just proper use of the card. It's also something else. So talk about that something else, because that was extremely helpful. And probably showed the most fruit for me as far as a big bump in credit score.
Yeah, so first thing, and real quickly, there are 5 components to this credit score to make up your total 550 points. As you know, the highest you can get is 850 on the consumer side. The lowest is 300. But it breaks it down like this: 35% of your score, 192.5 points, is your payment history. That's what you did yesterday and beyond, right? I can't change what you did yesterday, but we can fix what is inaccurate there, and we can change what you do tomorrow. The next biggest thing that most of us don't understand, particularly in minority communities, because it's not taught, is the 30% of your score is in utilization. This is all about how you use credit cards. And so some people will say cash is king. No, cash is not king. The only people that say cash is king is people who don't have credit.
Right.
Because if I can spend somebody else's cash and save mine, that's a better way for me to do it because I have more leverage in the long term. But the thing with utilization is 165 points. It's 30% of your score, and most of us are not getting but a small fraction of that because we don't understand how the credit cards work and how they work with the algorithm that actually creates your score. See, actually, we don't have a score, people. We actually have data, and that data is dynamic, meaning it constantly changes based on our actions. That's why we have to address the behavior. That data is then put into an algorithm that creates a score. Now, for those of you to get on Credit Karma, listen, your score don't change every day. Credit Karma has a computer program that's doing an estimation of what they think your credit will be based on the activity and things you're doing. Your score actually only changes once a month, once every 35 cycle period. So know that. You can even we have a program where you can get your credit score and a lot of other things along with identity theft and a lot of other protections. And it actually has a money management system in it that I cost you $19.95 a month that I still have for myself. It helps me make sure I keep track of it. But back to Charles' question, the biggest thing with credit cards is the due date that's on your statement is not the real due date. That's the due date that benefits the bank. And actually, the proper way to use credit cards, if you're doing it right, when your statement arrives to you, if your statement doesn't say zero balance, zero payment due, you're fighting the fight the wrong way.
Right.
And that's what people don't understand. That means you have to actually pay your credit card online before your statement is your real due date is your statement cycle ending date. Then if you back up 3 days from your statement cycle ending date, that's your 3-day blackout period, which you shouldn't use your card. Why should you not use your card, you ask? Because when you process a credit card transaction, before it actually appears on your statement, it goes into what's called a pending status. For the clear, if you ever bought something and they put a hold on your account, it's in pending. It's not an actual charge yet. So when things are in pending, depending on your credit card company, you probably are not allowed to pay that because it's not going to show that you have an amount due. So that means though, if you're at the last day, and that's the last day of your cycle, it reports your utilization to the credit card bureaus as of your last day of your cycle ending. So if you're not able to pay that bill because it's in pending status by your cycle ending, when it reports to the bureau, it's going to report as an actual charge, even though you weren't actually able to pay it. That affects your utilization. So that's why you have a 3-day blackout period before your ending date. So your real due date is 3 days before your cycle ends. That's your real due date.
Hold, stop right there, because you said a lot of stuff. So let's break that down so people will have a good understanding of it, because I think that's something that, like I said, for me, that was the most beneficial, is that blackout period, and going on from there.
Well, this brings up a good point that this listener had said, see, I want to just pay cash for everything and be done. If the money ain't there, I just won't get it. To educate, I will. That's not what you want to do, because here's the other thing. If you don't have credit cards and you're not actively using them, that works against you in the utilization as well. So get this. You've heard that they used to teach us when we were younger, you don't have, it's not that you have bad credit, you don't have any credit. Newsflash, not having any credit is bad credit. They're the same thing. It's they're first cousins, same thing. In fact, they're identical twins. So you have to have, for the algorithm to reward you, you have to not only have credit, but you have to use it well. You have to show that you use it, which actually, the way the algorithm is designed to predict your ability and your willingness to pay back in the agreed terms that you set. And so that's what it's predicting. So when anybody loans you money, gives you a loan for a mortgage, gives you a loan for a car, the reason why they pull that credit bureau is to basically see what is the predictable value of you actually paying them back. That's what it's all about. So like I said, it was created by a mathematician and a data scientist, Bill Fair and Earl Isaac. That's why you got FICO, Fair Isaac. That's what that stands for, credit organization.
Yeah. No, I think that's wonderful. And I think, if people are interested, definitely take a look at it, because I remember back to a show we did right before the pandemic kicked off, really, really strong. And we talked about what was to be gained during the pandemic. And this is one of those things that you can work on and gain and put yourself in a very favorable position if you take the time to do the steps. You've got to do the work to change those behaviors. But if you can get your credit in order, you can do anything. It doesn't matter what your job is. It doesn't matter what your education level is. But if you have great credit, then that puts you in a whole different category as a United States citizen.
Absolutely. And listen, you can right here, I'm going to put this link. I'm going to share it with everybody here, show it. Let's see. So this is our credit score improvement program. If you go to our website at irvin-law.com, and I'll put a link to this exactly as well. Go to credit score improvement program. We'll talk about business credit on the next show. But if you scroll down to the bottom, you can actually complete this and send it in for a new strategy session. And I'm going to also put a link in for you that will take you directly to our calendar that will allow you to book. And I think this might do it. I haven't been on our website in a while. Here it is right here. So exactly. So if you just scroll right here and go to contact us online, if you click contact us online, it's going to take you right there and you'll see Charles and me. If you want to do a legal consultation, you go to Charles. If you want to do a business, which is credit is under that, then you want to schedule a consultation with me. That goes right into our calendars. We'll schedule time. We'll call you and we'll go over everything. And we'll even get on a video call with you so that we can show you and explain everything. So generally what I do, I have a phone call with you, go over several factors. We see if you qualify. I do an analysis of your credit for $1. I compiled a report. I set a meeting with you again to go over it. I explain every single thing that's on your report. Why are they saying this is hurting you, everything you're doing, and so you can fully understand it. And I give you a realistic timeline on what it's going to look like to turn that around. And Charles will tell you, I will tell you that 12, 14 months for you based on what I see, and I'll tell you why. And I'll tell you the way we're going to do it. We're going to do it the legal way, the right way. But more importantly, you won't make the same mistake again because now you have the education and you understand it. So people call me and like, hey, I just did something. I know I messed up, but I already did this to fix it. I just want to let you know because I know you're going to see it on my report. So that means we're changing the behavior. And once you get to that point, the results will come.
Yeah. I mean, and talk about this too, Leslie, because I think when you talk about credit, people kind of clam up. There are levels, just like anything else in life. There are levels to it. You may be in the 6s, but if you change a couple behavioral things, you can get to the 7s. And
exactly.
if you get to the 7s, you may be able to get to the 8s.
Yeah.
And each one of those levels unlocks benefits as far as how you operate in your household. And they're good benefits.
Absolutely. You know, I'm gonna and keep talking, Charles. That remind me. I'll see if I have a sample kind of audit I do. But one of the things I show people is that if you can get to the 700 club, that's really our goal for everybody. What's your plan to 700?
Yeah.
If you can get to 700 and you keep doing the things that we taught you, you're gonna eventually get to 800.
Yeah.
But what most people don't realize, if you can get to the mid 700s, there's nothing you can't buy.
That's right.
I mean, the magic key, if we can get you at 750 or higher, or 740 or higher, there's nothing you can't buy. You're really at the top tier of credit there. You're in the top 2%, 2-3% of people.
Well, hold on, because that brings up something else.
Okay.
Not only can you buy it, but you buy it for less money than you would in the 600s.
Let me give you an example.
That part.
Let me give you an example. So I just did this, even just for my wife, just to show her, and I was showing another customer. So I just recently bought a car, right? And we traded another one about a car. Now, in the pandemic, I drive a car to the wheels fall off, literally.
Yeah.
But we had to have something because we were doing more driving. So we had something to go up and down the highway that was dependable. So I only financed a small portion of the car, but the part I financed, because of what I understand and how I've protected my credit, ask me what my interest I paid on the car. Now, I got a 36-month finance, 0% interest.
Yeah.
So I'm paying 0% interest for the car.
Right.
I'm not paying anything in financing. Based on the plan I set for myself, it'll be paid off in 12 months. But even if I would have got a 7% interest rate, which is not bad, it ain't great, it ain't bad. But bad, I mean, it's people driving around with 22, 23% interest. That's horrendous. 7% interest, that same car, let's say that car cost me $20,000. I'm paying $20,000 at 0%. If I'm paying 7% interest on that car, I'm paying about $25,000 for that car. So and most people that don't have good credit are paying 18% or higher.
That's right.
So I just talked to a gentleman that bought a car for $38,000. By the time he financed it and paid for it over 7 years, he paid $58,000 for the car. So here's where it becomes problematic. You paid $58,000 for a car that's worth $38,000. So you upside down for 8 years.
Right.
So that means you've got to keep that car for 7 years, and because you can't trade it in because you're upside down. So then when people go trade it in, the worst thing you do is go to a dealership, because now what they're going to do is roll over the amount you still owe on that 7-year-old car over to your new loan. So now you double upside down.
That's right.
And so you have to understand the game. And like I said, we spend so much of our time just on educating. So that's why we have a limit to how many people we take in our program, because you do have access to me. And I don't have enough hours to give access to everybody. So we have to limit the amount of people because we really are interested in helping you. And so it's not a numbers game for us. So we don't take 20,000 customers or 5,000. We don't. We just don't in a given year. And so But that's how you find us. And then if you want to talk to me about business or anything, a simple way to remember, just type in chatwithless.com. You can schedule a consultation with me right there, chatwithless.com. And I'll put that in the comments as well.
We have any comments thus far?
Yes, we do. Let me get them up. So let me see. I'm going to hit them. I need to be educated badly because in my mind, I resent credit scores. I think it's because I don't understand. It's foreign to me, but my husband totally understands. First of all, you're not alone. You are not alone. This is not stuff that we were taught. See, we were taught just pay your bills on time.
That's right.
If you just pay your bills on time and if you only paid your bill on time and did absolutely none of the other things, you still have a sub 500 credit score. Because the only thing you getting credit for is the 35%. So you got to have all pieces of the pie. Another major thing I want to remind people: inquiries. Don't fall for, hey, if you apply for this card, you get an extra 10%, 15% for you shoppers. I'm not a shopper, but for you shoppers that like to find deals, don't do it. Because if you got your credit right, your credit cards are going to give you a much lower interest rate than the store credit cards anyway. They start at 22%, 28%. You don't want to do that. Every time you do an inquiry, your inquiries count for 55 points of your score. You really should only have between 2 to 4 inquiries a year, which means you're really thinking about who you're going to let access your credit and check your credit, right? Your inquiries stay on your account for 2 years. So it's the easiest thing for them to verify and prove. If you sign up and you did an inquiry, you apply for credit, that's not coming off. That's legally able to be on there. So don't do that. That's one of the big things. So people give away 55 points. Then another common mistake is that if people that have okay credit, they get a new credit card and it has a higher limit. Then they close their old credit card. Never do that, because now you've decreased your utilization amount. You've decreased your available credit that you had. So now your utilization is going to increase, which is going to decrease your score. So what I mean by that, if you got one card that was $1,000 limit and your first card was a $250 limit, if you get the new card and you close the other one, then now you only have $1,000 limit. If you'd have left the other one open and just paid it off, you have a $1,250 limit. So now if you got $200 charged on it, that $200 is less utilization of $1,250 than it is of $1,000. So that's what you're trying to do. And you really should try to keep your utilization. They say 29%. I like to get my customers down to where you really are at 9% on the low. Let me see. We got another one. I noticed on one credit site, it factors in the debit card used to make payments on bills. Is that important? Which bank you decide to use? So that's why you should stay away from those sites that are predicting your scores, they estimate your scores, because that stuff is not right. So you want to get with a reputable credit repair, get a true credit reporting system from the bureaus. It's going to have all 3 bureaus that you can look at. I don't like Credit Karma. I don't like those estimations for a couple of reasons. Number one, Credit Karma makes their money from the credit card companies. That's why every time your score goes up, they tell you qualify for this card, this card, this card. Every time you click on one of those cards, Credit Karma gets paid.
Yep.
You don't even have to apply. You just click, they get paid. So that's how they make the money, and that's why it's free to you. Pay the $19.95 to have a real service so you can look at your real score. Everything can't be free.
No. Okay. And that estimate really doesn't give you a good reflection of what your credit looks like under each credit bureau. Talk about that, because they calculate scores a little bit differently at each one of them.
They do. Every bureau is independent of each other, and they calculate differently. And so you also have to understand there's a lot of variations to the credit score. So if you're getting an auto loan, they're pulling an auto score, which is totally different than a mortgage score.
Right.
And then Equifax mortgage score and experience versus TransUnion are all 3 different variables. They all have different components and count different things of higher values. So that's why you have to understand 3. And that's why you will very seldom have the same score across each bureau. because their algorithms are different. So no two bureaus algorithms are the same. So, for example, I know on a mortgage, I think Experian uses a version 2, Transfusion uses 7, I think Equifax uses 5. So, I mean, again, I'm not asking you to learn all those variations because it's constantly changing. But
Leslie,
yeah,
nobody knows what you're talking about right now.
I know.
You went down the rabbit hole.
I did. Okay, so I like this stuff. All right.
Yeah. We know. We get it. We know you love credit.
We'll get into it. But the bottom line is this: don't do the estimate score. They're not accurate. They're not going to give you enough information to give you a true understanding, and none of them give you all three bureaus. They either give you one or two, and they're going to either give you Experian and TransUnion are the two that they normally give you. You may get Equifax and TransUnion, but you will never get all three.
Yeah.
I think I got it. Okay. Somebody want us to get to this one, Charles, and this is coming. I'm gonna let you jump on this
one. Will they give out more PPP money? Well, if you look at where we are in the calendar, I'm going to say that's going to be very difficult because we're headed towards midterms. And if you notice, they spend a lot of time talking about the Build Back Better plan, but that's all they've been doing is talking. It's because the closer you get to voting for midterms, the more programs like that will help the citizens get used as a weapon against the legislators. So I would predict no, especially because the COVID variants are not as deadly. And it's, even though the hospitals are filling up, I don't foresee them shutting down everything all over again. I could be wrong, but the political winds just don't lean that way.
And what about this one, Charles?
Oh yeah. Maybe not this year, but I think I dedicated a show to telling you all to be careful about getting that PPP money back, because if you didn't fill it out properly, if you didn't follow all the requirements, and if you put any false statements in there in the fine print, they had the criminal statutes listed for that very purpose, and they're going to make an example. They always do. When they gave out money for Hurricane Katrina, I worked at the U.S. Attorney's Office on the Hurricane Katrina task force. And I can't tell you the number of people who we had to prosecute for false statements. 18 U.S.C. 2001, I believe. If Antonio is on here, he can correct me if I'm wrong. That's off the top of my head.
Yeah, and I think, the biggest thing to get people is this factor is, and what Charles is referring to is, when PPP was only designed to help supplement a few areas and was only for a 2-week period. You could define that 2-week period, but it was only for a 2-week period. And so when I start seeing people get large amounts of PPP money, and I'm like, wait a minute, their business is smaller than ours.
Yeah.
Something don't add up. I knew it didn't add up because it's based on your payroll. And then the other expenses you can use it for were like rent, utilities. Well, so you got to be able to document that stuff. So if you got $100,000 or $200,000 on a PPP loan, and I'm not talking about the disaster relief. That's a loan, traditional loan. But if you got on a PPP, which is a forgivable loan, follow the rules, there's no way you can have that. And so if you falsified and said you had X amount of employees and you really don't, you got a problem.
Yeah.
You got a big problem. And I don't know how you did it, because that means you had to submit payroll records. So that means you had to falsify that. So yeah, we got a problem.
Yeah.
Good question.
Yeah.
Charles, we got time, but let's go on and move on to some of the other things I know we want to talk about today.
All right.
Credit is one of those things that'll take over once you get started.
That's all right. Well, get a couple more in because we got time. We got a few more. We got time for about 2 more questions.
Let me see here.
It's been a while since we've done one of these, so
I think I got them all, Charles. I think I'm good. I think we're good.
okay. All right. Well, let's move on along then.
So switching gears, I like, our intern who I finally got to see Kennedy. We actually got to meet for the first time
Yeah.
yesterday, which is really cool. But the weather had been nice. We was gonna have lunch outside, but it got cold. And I said, Kennedy, we can't have lunch because I'm not sitting outside in 30-degree temperature, and I'm definitely not going inside.
Yeah.
But she's headed back to you in your way. But she, on her icebreaker, she said, just reflect on the new goals for Irvin in 2022, struggle of transitioning back to normal since the increase in COVID cases. So I think a lot of times, as entrepreneurs, we tend to talk about the wins, but we don't talk about the struggles. And I think it's important to understand that there are struggles in business and there are struggles dealing with COVID. It causes some change. So if you want to talk about that a little bit, that
Yeah,
transition.
I think COVID affects us as a business in a number of ways. We like to love on our clients and have them in the office and talk with them face to face, but because of the rate of transmission, that makes it hard because it's hard to keep that distance because you're in closed rooms, and so that's one way. The other way is the court calendar. I spend a great deal of time every year in court on behalf of clients, and the calendar gets pushed back because of transmission, because you're in a closed courtroom. And you think about just in court personnel alone, you've got one judge, you may have two administrators and a court reporter, and then you've got about, depending on the court, you usually have anywhere from 10 to 40 attorneys. And that's including prosecutors and defense attorneys. And then from there, you've got security personnel, court personnel. So that's over 30 people right there. These courtrooms were not designed for small, courtrooms are designed to handle everybody that has business before the court. And so even when you pare it down, that's still a lot of people, because I hadn't even gotten to the defendants or plaintiffs,
Right. True. Good point. And I think, just from a business side, I think just in business in general, if there are things that people, anytime COVID strikes up or rises again, there are things that people need to do. But if they feel like they can push it off, they just wait and hold on
Yeah.
to their money. So just from a business perspective, you have to be even more locked in on really trying to really help the customers you have and service them better, and really trying to explain the importance and really just the benefit of, is this something that can be pushed off? If it is, what are the possible side effects to pushing it off? It may be okay to push it off. It may be something you didn't think about.
Right.
Side effects. So it's really just been more thorough and strategic thinking, which requires more time. So I would say probably what I've seen in COVID, the amount of time your days get shorter because you're spending much more time per client than you had to pre-COVID, because you could do it face to face. You could sit, you could explain it. And with COVID, you're spending much more time, which means you can't touch as many people in a day that you would normally touch. So
Right.
the days get shorter in terms of how much you can accomplish that day. So we tend to work longer in during COVID times. Is what I could kind of see. I don't even. I mean, I couldn't even tell you the traditional work on COVID time. It's like every minute you get a break, you work.
Yeah. I mean, and then too, not just, we talked about the office and the courts, but it makes it difficult to visit, especially in criminal work. It makes it difficult to visit facilities because you have a population housed there. You've got guards that are in and out, administrators that are in and out. And so they try to keep the number of people as low as possible. If it's not an emergency, they really don't want you on campus.
Well, and here's another factor we hadn't talked about. We travel. Before, if we go back to 2019, 2018, that was heavy travel years for us. We travel a lot for customers. We have customers that are out of state, particularly business clients. And you know, in 2020, we weren't able to see them at all. In 2021, we traveled a little bit. In really cases where we had to, we only traveled when we had to. And so it definitely affected the business division in terms of what we could do with clients that are in other states because we weren't able to touch them like we normally would be. But I think you just have to get creative. And as far as goals in 2022, Charles, you want to talk a little bit about the
Just stay
expansion of
tuned.
Texas and
I'll
what
say just stay tuned.
okay. All right.
We'll just say stay tuned on that.
Okay. So we'll say stay tuned on that. And once we have solidified that and worked all the kinks out, and once it's official, so we're gonna stay tuned because it's not locked in yet. But once it's official, we'll come back and give you the full updates on that. All right. Now the other avenue is airlines.
Yeah.
That's probably the problem.
Yeah. I mean, airline, if you looked at nothing other than the stock that's behind each company, then you know there's some trouble in the water because they're having to account for the cancellations. I mean, when you have 1,800 cancellations really fast, that affects your bottom line. When you have this variant of COVID so easily transmitted, that means there's a high likelihood that some of your flight attendants and pilots are getting it. Some of your
and not only that, I'm reading an article right now. Like airlines just canceled another 1,600 flights.
Yeah, and right
this week, and
right before that, it was 1,800 the week before.
Yeah. And they cite, and it's all about workers because not only that, but mechanics.
Yes,
the virus and they're out. So if the plane can't be repaired, you can't fly.
Right.
You got flight attendants, you got pilots, you got ground crew. It's got to. I mean, it's a lot that goes on to get that plane in the air and down safely, and a lot of people involved. You got to have gate agents to check you in. You got to have TSA security to get you through security. So guess what? That's why your security lines are long because they can't even get people to work because they down.
That's right.
It's summer. I was in the last time I was in it. Well, you know my issue. I went to Atlanta to see Jackson State play, and I had to come up with every possible thing I had in me to get back home for my daughter's event because they canceled the flight.
Yeah.
I'm literally in the security line, headed through the terminal to go to my gate, and I get the notification, we canceled your flight.
Yeah.
This is after it's been delayed 5 times.
Yeah.
So that kind of stuff is happening on a regular. So I mean, that affects business because you can't even travel with confidence. You almost now got to go a day earlier that you really have nothing to do. You just got to go a day early to give yourself a day because it might take you 2 days to get there.
Yeah.
And so that costs more and it just goes down the line.
Yeah, it's a logistics nightmare because it's affecting all, like you said, from the front ticket agent all the way to the refuel line and everywhere in between. Pilots, flight attendants, ground crew, everybody.
Well, the next item on the list is a fourth vaccine. According to the Moderna CEO, he said a fourth vaccine dose might be needed this fall. And I pretty much realized that, guys, this is just going to be just like a flu shot. You're going to have to get the vaccine because it only lasts so many months.
Right.
It just does. And then with each one they do, they got more data and they're able to react to the latest variant. They will always be behind, but at least they're able to react and get it a little bit stronger. So until we can eradicate the coronavirus like we eradicated chickenpox and the measles, this is going to be a way of life.
Yeah. You'll be getting shots.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, it hit home. What do we say? We say it's just a matter of time before this hits home and gets real personal to you.
That's right.
It got real personal to me this week.
Yeah.
I'll just leave it there. Real personal.
Oh, yeah. And it's bound to happen because, but think about this, though. Right? Even though it's bound to happen, the fact that vaccines were in play creates a much more tolerable situation than no vaccine.
Absolutely. I mean, if you don't think we've come a long way, guys, if you just reflect back to 2020 when people were getting it and literally when you got it, you didn't know if you were gonna make it. You didn't even know if you had a chance to make it.
Right.
I mean, it was no vaccines, right? I'm talking about pre-vaccine.
Yeah.
Before the vaccine, it was look, this time 1 year ago, we didn't have a vaccine. I have to remind people of that. We didn't have a vaccine 1 year ago this time. The first shot started going in, I think next week. I think next week was the first week. It was the end of January. I know that.
Yeah.
And then by the time they got to us, I think it was March.
Yeah.
So,
That's about right.
yeah.
But it made a huge difference because hospitalizations went down, death, serious side effects. Because prior to the vaccine, it was if you got it, they didn't even know how to properly ventilate you. So it was a crapshoot at the hospital.
All right. Let's try this. Let's try
Yeah.
that. I mean, because you had no test data.
That's right. And so now it's much more. We don't want anybody to get it, but if you've been vaccinated, you have a much better chance of avoiding serious complications. There are always going to be outliers. It doesn't matter what the disease is. There will always be outliers. But for the vast amount of the population, if you've done what you're supposed to do and followed the science and gotten your vaccine and boosters, it puts you in a safer position.
So, Charles, switching gears a little bit, I noticed that the FBI and U.S. Attorney's Office have gotten involved in a fight in a major way with the partners in law enforcement in Jackson to fight crime. Being that you're a criminal attorney, have you heard about this? You have any insight on this?
Yeah, I mean they've been calling for it for quite some time. Basically, when you see spikes in crime like that, you want to take an all hands on deck approach, meaning that any avenue that you have to try and stem the tide of violence, you want to use it. So I'll put my educational hat on. I won't put the attorney hat on. I'll put the educational hat on. And part of major philosophies in criminal justice revolve around how you interact with the community. You want to be knowledgeable of the community. You want the community to be knowledgeable of you. So a lot of it is about effective communication. No different than business. The best businesses are the best businesses because people understand their product and what they do. In order to understand crime, you need to have an understanding of what's going on, and federal resources are greater than local resources. So if you can have them join you in trying to figure out what the problems are and let people know that they're involved, then there's a better likelihood of coming to some solutions. Because if you do the same, I mean, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing that you're doing over and over.
And expecting a different outcome.
And expecting a different outcome. I mean, so at least they're trying to involve all partners that are available.
Yeah, they stated in the news release that the areas they're going to focus on are the areas that's surging: business robberies, carjackings, and gun and drug-related offenses.
Yeah. I mean, it's gonna take that, and it's gonna take opportunity being put before people. Because
I agree.
No
I agree.
different.
And listen, when you start getting business robberies on a high magnitude, I mean that affects your whole ecosystem, right?
Yeah.
So Jackson has seen that, and when you start seeing, and listen, it's been going on for years. Anytime you start seeing just a high exodus of business out of the inner city, there's a reason.
Mm-hmm.
There's always a reason, and that means that it's gotten to a point where the liability is greater than the reward.
Yeah.
So you move, and I mean, look, it's no secret. We saw it where our office was last. When you have one person that decides, I'm going to take an I don't care attitude, and we saw how things went down literally overnight.
Yeah, beautiful building, terrible upkeep, and then it kind of spirals from there.
And so that's another thing that happened. You talking about 2021 that nobody planned for. Nobody wanted that huge cost of investment we had to make to pick up and move a whole firm, but we had no choice. And
Hey, you have
we
to
got
look
to the
at
point where it wasn't even safe.
no.
So, hey, we're gonna finish on an interesting on a sports note today. So we can't get around this, so we got to talk about it. It's been in the news. The Antonio Brown debacle. This time with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What say you, Charles? Is the gig finally up, or is this the signs of a person that is sick and needs help?
I think it was a cry for help. I mean, first time that you've seen anything quite that bizarre. Um, and knowing what we know from the outside, looking in on Antonio Brown, I've seen a lot of people focus on, well, he was this many catches away, he was this many yards away, he was this many whatever away from $1 million bonus. But when you see that type of action, it makes me wonder what else is going on beneath the surface. And so um, I hope the young man gets the help that he needs. I always tell people, I tell you all the time, NFL stands for not for long, and he's had more opportunities than most. So I think he's probably made himself unplayable at this point. But even in being unplayable, I hope that they rally around him from the Players Association and give him every opportunity to get the mental health support that he needs.
Here's what I would like to see.
Yeah.
I would like to see the NFL for once actually, instead of working against, and I'm talking to all 32 owners here, instead of working against the doctor, and I don't have his name to call his name, I would, and I don't want to mispronounce it, but the doctor that discovered CTE,
Mm-hmm.
and a committee of experts and doctors panels to come up with some kind of screening mechanism to identify players early and get them the help that they may need. Because when you take a player like Antonio Brown, and I can just go back to one hit, if we look at Vontez Burkhead and the hit he played on a couple years ago in that same game that the linebacker from Pittsburgh was paralyzed, playoff game, he got knocked out. And I can tell you, I've been knocked out one time in my life on a football field, and that was back in the days when they gave us smelling salt and woke you up. That's a concussion.
Yeah.
You get knocked out, that's a concussion. And when you get that kind of impact to your brain multiple times when you played in the league as long as he has, in the position he plays and the hits he's taken, with how bizarre it is and how it just seems to trigger, and he'd been held in checks for a while, and then but any little thing can trigger it because it's not rational, because it's dealing with the brain.
Yeah.
And I think the NFL has to make an ongoing commitment dealing with CTE to constantly evaluate these players to know when they're getting it so they can get the help they need early on. I think it's a cry, and I don't even think he knows he's crying.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. I mean, I think his actions speak as the cry. We're not talking about junior high players.
Right.
He's a professional.
Yeah, but we can't leave the responsibility on the player to go get himself checked out. No player is going to. It's not even in the mentality of a player. But we have to have just like you got protocols in the NFL for COVID, and you got protocols inside of you already got the concussion protocol, so wrap it inside of that. But I think we have to do more as a sport dealing with concussions because no doubt about it. I mean, you can ask anybody that's had a concussion, you come back from it, but look, it has some long-term effects that you can't see then.
Yeah.
And I truly believe it. And I love the game of football. We'll play it all over again. But I think your memory, how long you're able to retain on things, it can be little small things that are manageable that never ever bother you if you don't play that long. But if you take a kid now that's playing football year round, play high school, college, and the NFL,
Yeah,
it's
it's
a
a
lot
lot of
more hits
miles.
than I ever took. So,
A lot of miles and a lot of hits.
yep. So that's what I think. I mean, if you look at the symptoms and the signs, and you look at Dave Dearson that took his life. Look at CTE. It doesn't even care. These people weren't like homeless
No.
and down and out. You look at Vincent Jackson. All these players, man. Junior Seau. I mean, and on and on and on. Mike Webster. So I think I don't think this is Antonio Brown. I don't think this is anything Antonio Brown can fix himself. I don't think this is anything Antonio Brown can help.
Yeah.
This is not Antonio Brown. This is something inside of Antonio Brown that's causing problems and altering his behavior.
Yeah.
And the NFL needs to stand up and do something about that. And stop treating it like you're a bad kid that just got bad manners.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's like right now. Let me dust my feet of it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I hope he gets the support that he needs to get some clarity and get some help.
Well, Charles, that's all I have today. Close us out.
Well, we talked about it. Do we want to be inside? I, for one, I'm trying to get ready for football season. I'm not gonna lie to you. So I want us to be able to move about the country as safe as possible. So everybody do their part. I think we can make it. We know enough about how to work remote. We know enough about how to move and carry ourselves safely. We just have to stay in the habit of doing it. And I know it becomes monotonous. I know it becomes tedious, but it's worth it to do it.
Yeah. I want to turn up this year. And now I've already got to push it to the last. So I just want you to know we're gonna have an action packed back end of the year because it's just gonna be one event to the other. But it's special. 72 babies. This is a special year for us. So
you wouldn't be referring to the 50-year milestone, would you?
Yeah, I would be, man. That's what I'm referring to. I didn't want to say the number. I just couldn't get it out of my mouth because I'm gonna hold on to this 49 until to the last minute. But in all that we've seen with the pandemic, you realize right now how blessed you are to see it.
Yeah.
More than ever, you realize how blessed you are if you get the opportunity to see it. So, so let's buckle up, wear our masks. Let's do the thing. Let's limit our exposure as much as we can. For my angels in Colombia, that's doing what you're doing, and you know who you are. It's taking care of things for me. I appreciate you. I love you, and I thank you. I don't have to worry, and I can sleep at night because I know you got it. So appreciate it. And then look, we just gotta keep grinding and continue to. If you haven't got your booster, get your booster. I think it makes a world of difference from people I've talked to that's contracted the virus, and literally it was like a cold to them. The shots made the difference.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't miss a beat. So let's make sure we do that. And I know, Charles, you've known people personally who've gone through it and recovered. So the recovery looks a lot different for vaccinated people today than it looked for non-vaccinated people a year ago. I can assure you that.
That's right.
All right. And then let's send a prayer for all our kids that are back at school, all the young people, even the ones that's too young to get vaccinated, and the ones that are but can't get boosters yet. I constantly worry about that and the kids being back at school.
Yeah, the teachers, the cafeteria workers, the administrators, the janitors, security personnel, students, everybody. Let's try to be as safe as possible.
There you have it. Charles said, we'll see you next Friday, same time, same channel. And remember, you can now join us on Twitter as well. So until next Friday, take it easy and be safe.